Bill Maher got denied going to the Creative Artists Agency's after Oscar party. So he was signed to this agency, CAA, and he was denied to their after party from the CEO. Can you imagine that? The people that you pay to represent you, they had just negotiated him another deal with HBO to continue the show. So that's his people, the agency. The CEO of that agency, Bill Maher, is a big name under that. They didn't let him in the building. They didn't let him in the party.
Middle MAGA.
And finally, new rule, being obsessed with your mental health is bad for your mental health. I've been thinking a lot lately about a puzzle many are struggling with. Why are Biden's approval ratings so low when things are generally pretty good? Now, of course, there are problems. America's a big place, but wages are rising, unemployment is negligible, the stock market is soaring. We somehow brushed off both the Trump presidency and the pandemic. Yes, inflation persists for a lot of things, but you know, an actual good, nice-sized TV now costs $60. Who gets credit for that? We've got next-day shipping, stuffed crust pizza, legal weed, GPS, and porn on the phone. Cheer the fuck up. Stop acting like life in America in 2024 is unbearable. Biden's ratings are in the toilet, not because he's doing such a bad job, but because a lot of Americans like to live with their head in the toilet. Let's look at the numbers. Almost a third of American adults have reported a depression diagnosis at some point in their life. And while depression is, of course, a very real thing, it's also true that earlier generations never suffered from the expectation that you're supposed to feel good all the time. 1 in 8 adults are on antidepressants, and that doesn't include the ones who steal them from their kids. And the kids? The newest TikTok challenge is self-diagnosis of mental problems, because what's more of a hotbed of mental health than TikTok? In 2022, the CDC released the results of a survey on teen mental health, and over 40% said they feel persistently sad or hopeless. And antidepressant use among young males is rapidly rising, unlike their dicks. Now, without a doubt, antidepressants can be life-saving for those who need them, but here's the thing. About 3/4 of Americans who are on them haven't been diagnosed with depression at all. They just want a magic pill. We spend $6 billion a year on drug ads, all featuring someone emerging from darkness to play with a dog. And all with the message, you're a sad sack of shit, now take this. Also, and don't get mad at me, I'm just citing statistics, but the people who really shouldn't be that bummed out but are acting like it anyway are exactly who you think. White women. An estimated 35% of whom are on antidepressants, although in their defense, have you seen the prices at Lululemon? These gals are so distraught they can barely keep their appointment with the Vietnamese girl who does their nails. Calling Dr. TikTok. But every bad feeling isn't a disease, and Americans really need to stop pathologizing everything. No one's just sad anymore. They're clinically depressed. They don't merely worry, they have chronic anxiety. Do you like things neat and organized? That's OCD. You're bummed when it's cold out? Seasonal depression. Hate being alone? Separation anxiety. Bored? That's ADHD. Shy? Social anxiety disorder. Why? Because you don't want to go to the office party? Nobody does. Best case scenario, you have too much fun and it leads to getting fired. Are you moody? No, you're bipolar. And some people are bipolar. And some people are on the spectrum. But sometimes on the spectrum is just a hall pass for being a jerk. I'm clinically an asshole. Nothing I can do. Yes, you are on the spectrum, but so is everyone else alive. That's why they call it a spectrum. And it's not noble to glom onto the soft end of it. PTSD is for people who fought in Iraq, not for people who want to bring their dog on a plane. There are people in America with real problems who deserve to feel sad, but sometimes a bad day is just a bad day. When you constantly reinforce this message that no one's just a normal human with normal struggles, but we're all permanently fucked in the head, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Maybe the solution is much simpler, and you just went a week without sleep or sunlight. Maybe you have problems that could be solved with vegetables.
Is that a vitamin D thing that you're talking about? Proposing vitamin D, Bill?
Or exercise. Studies have shown that while antidepressants can be effective in serious cases, for most people, exercise is even more effective because exercise helps you get laid. Whereas antidepressants just make you listen to podcasts about murder. A couple of months ago, Elmo, the Muppet from every screaming toddler's iPad, wrote on his Twitter account, "Elmo is just checking in. How's everybody doing?" And Twitter responded like he was the suicide hotline. Wife left me. Daughters don't respect me. My job is a joke. Any more questions, Elmo? Elmo, I'm gonna be real. I'm at my fucking limit. In the grand scheme of the universe, our existence is merely a blink, devoid of inherent meaning or purpose. And Elmo wrote back, "You think you have it bad? Try living your life with a guy's forearm shoved up your ass."
What you saw there from Bill Maher was him shilling for the regime.
All rulers demand that people bend the knee. That's why they're rulers.
Very well done. Much better than Jon Stewart, I will say. Way better. Jack Posobiec ain't buying it. Jack Posobiec said, here's Bill Maher spending 6 minutes telling Americans to shut up and everything will be fine under Sleepy Joe. And that's what it was. He wanted to hide his regime shilling for Sleepy Joe behind a lot of truths. And a lot of that message was fair, applies to me as well. Everything's not bad. We can laugh. We can talk about stuff. We just had Broken Traditions on the channel. We had some good laughs.
Biggie, he said some real wild, flagrant stuff on lyrics that nobody really questioned until like later on in life.
When I met you, I admit my first thoughts was a trick. You look so good, huh? I suck on your daddy's dick.
Pause.
I suck on your daddy's dick.
And I'm going to do a live with Ray Studios, Prestige Culture Dynamics. We're going to talk about non-political stuff. Life isn't unbearable. But that's not the take. That's a straw man argument. Whoever made that take? Who made the take that life was unbearable, that life was terrible? You don't hear that from the populace, right? What you hear from them is that the guy who is occupying the White House is not who they want there. That's a completely separate argument than saying go out and exercise. The people on the populist right are the ones more likely to exercise. Let me tell you what's happening. This is the important part. Do not miss this. So I replied to Jack Posobiec and I said, Jack, Bill Maher got denied going to the Creative Artists Agency's after Oscar party. So he was signed to this agency, CAA, and he was denied to their after party from the CEO. Can you imagine that? The people that you pay to represent you, they had just negotiated him another deal with HBO to continue the show. So that's his people, the agency. The CEO of that agency, Bill Maher is a big name under that. The CEO of that agency, I don't know what happened here. I have the article. I don't know exactly why. The article doesn't say exactly why. Bill doesn't say exactly why. He did not respond. They didn't let him in the building. They didn't let him in the party. Can you imagine that? The people that you pay, they get the cut of your contract that you just negotiated. I don't know the details of his specific deal, but that's typically how it works. They negotiate the deal. They seal the deal. He doesn't get a deal with HBO without signing with the CAA. And guess what? He dropped him. He's done with HBO. This is my opinion. There ain't no re-upping with HBO after you drop CAA. And when they didn't let him in the party, he knew there was no re-upping. I don't know if he's going to make it through this deal. So on March 9th, he was denied entry to this party. On March 15th, he does the regime shilling segment, and he can barely do it. He spent the first couple minutes talking about the economy's great. I'm not gonna waste time arguing that. He did that to say, oh yeah, Biden's great. Biden's not that bad. He talked about the price of a TV. What the hell has that got to do with Joe Biden? He spent 30 to a minute on that. And then the rest of it on stuff that I think most people would agree with, a lot of that, some funny jokes in there. Because you can't defend Sleepy Joe. So you try to make it, so you say, yep, prop it up. It's not that bad. Why are you complaining about Sleepy Joe? And then spend 4 minutes of the 6-minute segment just talking about generalities and stuff that even goes against Sleepy Joe. Exercise, vitamins, vegetables. They weren't talking about that during the pandemic. Here's the news. Sources say the host of HBO's Real Time with Bill Maher fired CAA, his reps for more than 2 decades. They're the gatekeepers to Hollywood. On Monday, after he was not invited to CEO Brian Lord's private Oscar party at his home on Saturday night, Maher, according to sources, was furious that he was snubbed for the event, which was scheduled opposite the Motion Picture and Television Fund's night before Bash. The party at Lord's home drew the likes of J.J. Abrams, Barry Diller, Kamala Harris, Margot Robbie. You see all the names there. So Bill Maher's like, you invited all of them are regime shillers, of course. So Bill Maher's like, you invited them? If you don't know who CAA is, check this out.
Positioned at the nexus of talent, content, brands, technology, sports, and live events, CAA creates opportunities for the storytellers, trendsetters, icons, yada, yada, yada. Across film, television, music, sports, digital media, marketing, and beyond, we represent thousands of the world's leading actors, directors, writers, producers, musical artists, comedians, authors, athletes, coaches, broadcasters, teams, leagues, chefs, designers, fashion talent, consumer brand, and more. Something that they just happen to leave out there is politicians as well. Back in 2017, Joe Biden signs with the CAA. Why on earth would you do that? To amplify post-White House initiatives. Then you also look at also in 2017, former National Security Advisor Susan Rice signs with the same talent agency as Biden. Interesting. Now, if we, again, take a little trip back into some historical video. It's movie night, guys. I told you. If we're going to take a look at some historical video, you'll see that there's a lot more to this. And I think it's better if I just show you. It's about a minute long. Check it.
People love to make a big deal out of an event like this. It's the Hollywood, Washington connection, West Coast, East Coast, whatever it is. People love to make a big deal out of it. And I think it's in part because of some of the similarities between your world and the political world.
Some of you for some help with the House of Representatives because you believe in banning assault weapons.
I also want to say a special word of thanks to so many of you in this audience who worked for me in the last election, who made appearances for me, who helped to raise funds and helped to make arguments, and who stood up for me in the face of pretty wilting criticism. When I was upstairs meeting some of you, it was interesting to me what was mentioned going through the lines. Some people said, I'm really glad you fought so hard for NAFTA and passed it. Others said, I'm glad you're trying to get a new World Trade Agreement through GATT, but I'm glad you're fighting for the interest of the entertainment industry while you're doing it.
Lord's private party came a day after CAA toasted a bunch of these nominees. Jodie Foster in there as well, and I'm a fan of Jodie Foster. That latest season of True Detective was dope. Maher had been repped by CAA by Stephen Lafferty, who also serves as the agency's head of television. News of Maher's ditching CAA came after the agency recently negotiated that 2-year extension I talked about, which takes the weekly talk show through the 24th season in 2016. And I don't know where his podcast comes from, that online podcast he does that's different. It's much better than even his regular show now, because he's had people who would never really be regime shills, like Patrick Bet-David was on that podcast. So you look at it, I don't think they believe he's enough of a shill to get into the parties. So his access might be over. Bill, you might need to get fitted for a middle MAGA sweater. You might ultra MAGA. What size are you, Bill? The series is one of HBO's longest running originals. It launched in 2003 and is second in the premium cable network's history, behind only the recently concluded Real Sports with Brian Gumbel. Was that still on? Wow. It wasn't a bad show back in the day, just like everything else after Trump it went to hell. Reps for Maher did not immediately respond to the request for comment. I think we'll let Rose McGowan have the last word on what she thinks of CAA.
Your former Charmed co-star, Alyssa Milano, gets a lot of credit for helping Me Too go viral.
So?
Are you proud of her?
I don't like her.
Why?
Because I think she's a lie.
Why?
Do you think I don't know these people? I'm not looking at this from the outside. I have a lot of experience. I know she's married to a CIA agent. Do the math. Who's behind Time's Up? CIA. Where do they meet? CIA. Who needs good PR? CIA. Who are part of the pimp problem? CIA.
These are very powerful people you're talking about.
They are. So am I.
Middle MAGA.